Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosovitz, with my all-time, most favorite, most wonderful, best in the universe co-host, Jen Albanese.
Best in the universe. Let's go.
I have to add to it every time.
I know. Hello, Dr. Mosovitz. How are you?
Hello. Very good. Very excited because our guest is someone that I actually got to know while I was in college. We were students together. We overlapped.
Oh my gosh.
That's how long we go back.
That's so funny. Long time then.
Long time. And he's going to be on to talk about what he's doing now, which is awesome with technology and sports, but also just give insight on what it's like to be in the world of athletics. So great guy.
He's got some good experience. He was in the world for a while. So, and this new company is very, very interesting.
Just taking off, killing it. So anyone that's looking to like do things that are related to technology and athletics, like he's a great guy to give some advice to. So
and connect with for sure.
So I was thinking, like, as I was prepping for him, thinking, when I knew him, I did not think I was going to be doing professionally what I'm doing now. So like,
when you first started, when you were a freshman, like what was your,
I was going to be a psychologist.
Really?
Like I was going to be a school psychologist.
Okay.
And that, like, so when him and I knew each other, like, I was just doing this as a hobby. This was not
like when you were the manager for lacrosse. It was just like a hobby. Yeah.
It was just like a fun thing to do. They didn't have sports management at school. I didn't. Even if they did, I don't think I would have majored in it.
Right.
And I was. Just
I didn't major in sport management either. Like it's funny when I think about when I started freshman year at Lemoyne. Go Dolphins. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like my mom would always be like, Jen, what's going to be your career? What are you going to do?
Did you go in like undecided?
Yeah, it was like a liberal arts. Yeah, I didn't even have a major in mind. And
really?
In your freshman year, you do all like the core classes and you got to take certain ones for just to be there. And then I started doing internships like in seeing what it was about to work in sports. Like I worked for our minor league baseball team and that's where it started. And I was like, this is so cool. Like that I could make this a career. And again, Lemoyne didn't have sport management. Right. So I also didn't major in it. I ended up majoring in business and marketing. So it's a well-rounded degree. Like
but marketing is
right where I'm
what
in.
You do.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because when you start, you always think like, okay, this is, I know what I'm going to do. And a lot of kids it completely changes when they're in school, which is okay. Like it's fine.
It's absolutely great. I mean, you got to go where it makes sense for you and develop and
what you learn to love. Like what is something that you really love to do?
Something you become passionate about and become good at.
I mean, college was fun though too. Like we were able to like your first like sense of freedom and like, being able to be on your own, which is really cool. So,
I remember moving into my dorm room. I had a single. I was like one of the only freshmen that didn't have a roommate.
Single? Like what?
I worked the system. I found out that if you were in a learning community that they had all singles.
You were that nerd?
Oh
Come
yeah,
on.
but I got it.
I'm just kidding.
I'm
Learning
a nerd that got a single.
Awesome.
I'm a nerd that got a single, and I live to it to this day. I never had a roommate in my room my entire time at college. I had my own room from the day I stepped foot in college to the day I left.
Wow, that's impressive. You should receive some sort of award for that.
Yeah, the first time I had a roommate that lived in my room was when my wife moved in with me. So that's about.
Well, thank God for Liz.
There you go. She's the only person I can live directly with.
Yeah, well, that's why she's your wife.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I actually commuted my first 2 years.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So I was a commuter, which, again, kind of a nerd in itself. But so I had to, like, be extra involved in things so I could meet friends.
Like,
and
stay connected.
Yeah, so I was on my dance team, and I did, like, theater and
wow.
And then
theater.
and then and then my junior senior year I lived off campus with friends. But so, each have different paths in college, but let us hear, I guess. So.
Memories. Well, I'm going to travel down the path with an old friend from college next. So
I know.
Everyone stay tuned and we'll be back with Drew after these messages.
Are you a loyal 5 Tips and Tricks podcast listener? If not, now is the time to start. Get all your info and fun content on the podcast by following us on all our social channels at @AthCareerPod. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting. Make sure to reach out to us. The one-stop shop for everything is our website, www.athcareer.com. Remember, follow and like us on @AthCareerPod, rate and review us, and get all your info at www.athcareer.com. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Maury, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Today, we have a very special guest who's the Chief Partnership Officer at GoRout. GoRout, a company who works for revolutionizing coach-to-player communication in sports. By providing real-time access to critical information through rugged wearable devices, GoRout simplifies the way coaches and players interact, improving decision-making and performance on the field. In his role, he helps to support and manage staff responsible for identifying, developing, and managing strategic partnerships. He's been at GoRout since January 2020, and after spending over a decade in FBS football. His career includes significant roles such as serving as assistant athletic director and football chief of staff at Western Michigan University, where he was from 2017 to 2020. His extensive experience also includes being the director of football operations at Syracuse University in 2015, and assistant athletic director for football operations and recruiting at Rutgers from 2007 to 2010, and again from 12 to 15. Through his career, he has been a part of 8 bowl games, bringing a wealth of leadership operation expertise to the table. In addition to his time in college football, his journey includes stints with IMG College, MSG Network, and even started his career as a student assistant at Syracuse University from 03 to 7. Very excited to welcome Drew Robinson to the podcast. Welcome, Drew.
Thanks, guys. I'm really excited to be here. Like I said, kind of when we were catching up a little bit, I think this is really cool what you guys are doing. I'm happy to play just a small part in it as well.
Well, thank you for coming. And just to think where you and I go back, we were both students when we first met. And then
you guys are dating yourselves now.
We were both doing the grunt work. We both started. I mean, you could call what we were doing at that time, Maury. We were at the lowest rung on the ladder.
As low it could possibly get in the athletics ladder as the two of us.
Sure. And look where we are now.
I know.
Look how far you've come.
We've come very far. I remember you were in football and doing operations, and I was getting my start in facilities. So our careers have just kind of gone at the same time. And I've always enjoyed working with you, and you've been on our list to come, and we're so happy that you actually got a chance to come and talk to us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here, guys.
Well, yes, with that, throw out your first tip or trick.
Yeah. So, as I was spending time kind of thinking about, some tips and tricks, I think, number one, it was hard to think of 4 or 5, to be honest with you, because obviously, when you spend, 12, 13 years, whatever it's been, in college athletics or around college athletics, you could say, you pick up a lot of different tips and tricks from a lot of different people. I was blessed. I was able to spend some time at different places. And again, everybody you meet and come in contact with throughout those different journeys provide you with some sort of tips and tricks for your career, your life, what have you. But number one, I think, is one of the most important ones to me has always been, you have to make yourself indispensable. And what I mean by that is, turn yourself into a Swiss Army knife. That's kind of the way I always like to put it. Everybody knows what a Swiss Army knife is, right? You have a corkscrew, you have a nail file, you have little pocket knives. And really, that's kind of what I tried to be, early on in my career, or really throughout my whole career. Not being afraid of offering myself to get more experience doing things maybe outside my comfort zone, things maybe I didn't know how to do, but willing, showing the ability to learn and showing the ability to adapt, I think, is something that, again, is one of those things that, my biggest tip would be adaptable and be that Swiss Army knife. Learn to do 100 different things. You don't necessarily have to be an expert in all 100 things, but the more that you know how to do, the more likely you are to become indispensable, and more likely people are going to help find you different roles, maybe roles that you never would have expected. You'll kind of fall into to an extent. And really, that's based on kind of you taking yourself taking the initiative to just learning and engrossing your things in kind of all the different parts of your job or the jobs around you, to really learn more and just keep learning, if that makes sense. Because again,
100% makes sense.
The more you know, and the more you kind of at least have an idea of how it works, right? Like I said, you don't
Yeah.
need to have to be an
Right.
expert in everything, but if you know kind of what it looks like or what it takes to get things done, you can just better relate with the folks that you actually need to get those things done. And again, that's always been something that was really important to me.
I like how you explain like indispensable, not because like you create a situation where the only one that knows how to log into like a code or something, or the only person that like has a key, but because you're so good at what you do and the fact that like you're a go-to guy, that makes you indispensable. I feel like people don't realize like that's such a valued thing in athletics. I mean, I'm sure anywhere out in the professional world, but especially in an environment like where athletics, where so many different things are going on, and you're a leader there, and you can say that's a guy that I know I can put out in the field, or girl, and get something done. That makes you that person that you really don't want to live without, right?
Yeah, and I think again, it gives you a better understanding sometimes of what other people are doing around your job or
Yeah.
around your program or your department or what have you. Again, I think again, you don't need to be an expert in it, but the
Right.
fact that you know what people are doing around you, maybe you then can offer assistance to maybe lighten their load or just make things more efficient. More. I think we probably had some of those examples when I was the
Yeah.
director of football operations, where there were things that you were maybe were your responsibility, but I would learn from you and say, hey,
Right.
look, you don't need to do this on Saturday. I can do this on Saturdays, and
Right.
you enjoy your time off, right? Like little things like that. I think are ways that again you just become indispensable because again, maybe that has a little bit of a negative connotation, but I mean it in the most positive way of meaning, just make your career or make how you operate
Right.
something that people need or people gravitate
Yeah,
towards
they
and
value
want to
it.
be a part
Right.
of.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes,
Well,
100%.
it's like being willing to do different things, be willing to do it. Because I think sometimes when students are either coming right out of college or whatnot, they're like, okay, I'm solely focused on doing sales and I don't want to learn about anything else. But being able to be diverse in your expertise and what you do is going to make you indispensable because you can speak on different topics. You can give a valued opinion. But people get so like, so siloed in the fact of like, I just want to go to this one part of sports, and being able to understand everything is just going to help you be well-rounded and continue to grow in your career, I think. So that indispensable piece is not negative. I think that's a really great one.
Yeah, and to your point too, I've always been taught that if you live in a silo, you're going to stay in that silo,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So if you
100%.
don't want to live in a silo,
No.
again, you better surround yourself with skills or traits or
Mm-hmm.
ideas that you're getting from outside that silo. And again, that's just so important. And again, that's where I always fall back on that Swiss Army knife.
Yeah,
Be
I
one
love
person who
that.
can do
Yeah.
many different things. And again, you're going to become an indispensable at that point.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you're
love that.
starting hot out the gate. Awesome tip to start. Let's get to your second one.
Yeah, so this one I've edited a bit because I know this is probably a PG crowd, but it's be where your butt is, right?
Yeah.
Again, I think I've heard that through some of the other guests that you had on.
Yeah.
Too many folks in our industry or the industry we came up in are always looking for the next move, right? Or
Yeah.
they're chasing logos, chasing money, chasing all the things that are nice. And don't get me wrong, I did that for a part of my career. But again, I don't think you can really get great at what you're doing if you're always looking for the next thing.
Right.
And again, that's something that maybe took me a little bit of time to be very frank and honest with you to learn that you just got to be where your butt is.
Right.
Yeah.
If you do a great job in whatever role you are tasked with at any point in your career, everything else with regards to kind of chasing logos, chasing money, chasing better opportunities, it's all going to take care of itself.
Right.
Because you're going to be great at what you're doing in your
Mhm.
current role.
And it
I
ends
mean,
up being like, oh, sorry, I was gonna say,
No,
you
go.
make connections. It's because people know you. Like a lot of times, I know in your career, like a lot of times you've gone to places where people have built a relationship with you and they respect you, so they want you to be a part of what they're doing. And so like it shows through in so many ways. Like if you're active and showing the best sides of yourself, it usually means that you're gonna get to maybe not what you thought you were going to get to, but something that really is going to be important to you and be, what a place that you need to be at that moment.
Yeah, and I think you also owe it to wherever you're at that point,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And whatever
Right.
job you're in and who you're working for,
Mm-hmm.
to really be where your butt is, right? Because
Yeah.
again, if you're spending too much time chasing the next thing, again, you're doing a disservice not only to yourself but to those around you. Which again, going back to kind of my original tip is you're really only as strong as who you're working with, right?
Right.
And again, the more you can kind of engross yourself in that current situation, again, the better your team's going to operate and the better you're going to operate at that point as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, being present. We said that, with a couple of guests, like being present of where you're at, and then getting good where you are will then lead to that next opportunity. Because then how do they measure you if you're always going to that next position?
Yeah.
How do they measure what you're good at or what impact you've had on the place that you're currently at? So
yeah, and I've been lucky. I've been lucky that all the jobs that I've had through my career, I've always been prospected for.
Yeah.
So
Right,
I haven't necessarily had to go chase. And so much of that has been based on the fact that I did a good job for the people that I was working with when I was in the current situation, when the new opportunity came.
Yeah.
And again, that was because I was where my butt was, right? And
Right.
I did the job the best I could while I was in that situation. And again, I truly believe everything takes care of itself at that point.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I was going to make a joke, like you're chasing the money in athletics. It's not the place for the money.
That's for sure.
You know what
That
I mean?
is for
Like
sure.
this, there's a small upper echelon, but money is not is not what you're chasing. So
that is for sure. 100%.
We'll tell people that.
Yeah. Not what everyone wants to hear, but it is the correct tip.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's honest, right?
It's true.
Right.
Number 3. We're number 3.
Yes, number
Perfect.
3.
Yeah, almost a perfect segue actually to what we're joking about now is, I think a tip is going to be, athletics in this industry. If you are trying to get a 9-to-5 job, the wrong decision for you. Athletics is never going to be a 9-to-5 job. You have to be prepared to miss holidays. I've missed maybe 3 or 4 Christmases being at bowl games with my, Christmases with my family being at bowl games with my football family.
Right.
Weddings. I've missed some of my best friends' weddings. Some of them still give me a hard time about it to this day. Birthdays, all kinds of different events, right? And I think it comes with the territory because you do have an opportunity to experience amazing things that a lot of people would be lucky to experience. Being on the sideline for a top 10 upset, or traveling to all over the world really to with your teams and being able for free, right, with the team. All these different opportunities are something that it's basically a trade-off for the fact that, hey, there are going to be some days you work 18-hour days. There's going to be some days, some weeks you work 7 days a week. You don't have a day off. But again, that's just something that if you're going into this world, you just need to be prepared for. And again, I think, twofold is, you can't take a day for granted either.
Right.
I mean, even the worst days, the days where, maybe I missed something that I really wanted to be a part of, and or again, I was away for the holidays or what have you, you still need to step back and take a deep breath and just, put everything in perspective and consider yourself lucky for those opportunities. Because again, I don't even know where I would be without some of the experiences that I've had based on the fact that I spent so many years in college athletics. And again, there were tough times for sure, but man, those really good times far outweigh some of those bad times or things you miss out on. And again, you just need to kind of be prepared for that, and really be prepared to kind of mentally be prepared for that kind of thing, but then also be prepared to just take a breath and enjoy those moments too, because again, they're really cool opportunities that a lot of people don't get. I have a lot of friends living here in New Jersey. I have a lot of friends I grew up with who, went into finance or went, lawyers or what have you. And crazy because, forever they've been making, to your point, Jen, tons of money doing those different things, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't making much money for a long time. And, they were envious of my job. Right. And again, you keep everything that really throws everything back in perspective with regards to, man, you may not be making as much money as them, but who cares? You're having all these other experiences that they're wishing they're having.
Right.
So again, I think keeping that in perspective, but then being very honest with yourself, and again, understanding that especially early on in your athletics career, you're not going to be clocking in 9 to 5. It's just not realistic. And, we actually see that in my current job, we in hiring role, we have, college graduates all the time with these expectations that are completely out of whack for an entry level or for, a kind of first job out of college situation. And again, that's where I just feel so lucky that I had the experiences I had to kind of build that in me and instill that in me. And again, even to this day, where now I'm working more of a 9 to 5, if you will,
Yeah.
it's still, it's ingrained in me that if I have to work 7 to 8,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
ready for that. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
If that's what it needs to happen, I'm prepared for that. So again, I think that's something that everybody kind of going into this industry just needs to be prepared for.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, transitioning out of like kind of being involved directly with the team, but now in your role as like a sports technology company and doing what you're doing, like how, how's that transition been? Like, how is that, different from your time, like doing work in, a sports setting and like servicing a team basically for just one group all the time?
Sure. Yeah. Different, of
Yeah.
course, just hours.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my company, we're lucky. We're fully remote.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
again,
nice.
just hours of the day is just very different.
Right.
That was the biggest change for me, was, kind of transitioning out of football into this world was, okay, I don't have to be at an office at 7 a.m. every day. I don't have to do X, Y, and Z and then leave at 10 p.m. or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that, depending on day of the week. I have kind of full autonomy of how I want to kind of structure my
Right.
day. Now, for me, how that worked, especially right off the rip, and even to this day, to an extent, is I'm still an early riser, right? So
Yeah.
I'm still up early. I'm still kind of popping out of bed and ready to attack the day rather than just kind of lounging around. One of the crazy things, this is just a funny kind of sidetrack. One of the crazy things for me has been, in my previous office, my previous house and my house now, I've always had a TV in my office, but it's
Yeah.
never on. It's never been on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people think you're working from home, you're able to do all these different things, but like I've tried to very much keep things where, hey, when it's work time, it's work time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When it's not work time, it's not work time, right? And keeping
Yeah.
Right.
that kind of separation has been important to me, kind of based on 13 years of 7 a.m. to maybe 10 or 11 p.m. right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of helped me. I will be honest, I also got lucky, right? I left football in January 2020, and COVID happened 3 months later, right? Or
Right.
2 months
Oh,
later.
yeah.
And scary at the time because I did take a commission-based job,
Right.
coming out, and all of a sudden the world shuts down. So how are you going to be able to sell? But to be honest with you, it also removed what I thought was going to be the hardest part of my transition, which was going to be, when my former colleagues or my friends are all in meetings and,
Right.
at
Right.
games and things like
Yeah.
that. And believe it or not, COVID eliminated
Helped.
that kind of
Yeah,
FOMO,
because
if you will.
everybody was
Everyone
work
was
from home at that point.
you got to start this transition up without everyone else doing what they were doing before.
Correct.
Yeah.
I didn't have the FOMO, right? Because
Right.
everybody was kind of
Right.
dealing with the same thing at that time. And
Right.
so that definitely helped the transition too. But, I'll tell you what, kind of going into the business world, one of the things I'll say is, most of our business is still with college
Right.
programs, college
Mhm.
athletic departments. So you're still working some off hours just based on kind of schedules and things like that. But, to be really honest with you, it's maybe not as many hours, but there's its own challenges,
Right.
right? We're a startup company here at GoRout, and I think I was the 4th or 5th employee hired by the company. We're up to about 30 now, and
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
we just crossed a huge threshold this past year. We did 5 million in sales for the first time
That's
ever, right?
incredible.
So there's new challenges. They're
Right.
different than team challenges or football team
Mhm.
challenges, I should say. But there's a tremendous amount of challenge in growing a company from the ground up. So
Mhm.
again, I think it's different. I think the biggest transition is more so hours than
Right.
anything else. And like I said, for me, we're fully remote, so not having to go to an office every day. I still miss that at some time, at different points. But again, having that autonomy to kind of build my day how I want to build it is, gosh, it's awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome.
That's
Okay.
great.
Number 4. Am I
Yep,
got it
number
right, Jen?
4. No,
Number
yep,
4.
we're good.
Drew,
Number
that was
4.
awesome.
Yeah, so here's kind of a good one that I think will resonate with people is, and I've heard a bunch of your guests talk about having enthusiasm for everything you do, right? And the way I always talk about that is very simple: get to versus have to. And I think the sooner that you can, as you enter the athletics world, the sooner you can, program your mind that you get to do these different things
Right.
rather than you have to do these different things, the more enthusiasm you're going to have for your current
Mhm.
job, but really the industry as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
one of my least favorite things to do when I was still in football was like, back when you had to do the countable hours for compliance,
Right.
and it was just monotonous, busy work,
On
and
the
I
paper
hated it.
sheets at the time. Like
Yep,
I
I
remember
hated it.
getting the paper, like filling out those stupid paper sheets and getting every student to sign them. It was the
Again,
worst thing.
you're dating
I
yourself.
know, but
All of you
it was
are
like
dating
it was
yourselves.
a clipboard with like I had six. I mean, I don't know how you did it because you had like 120. I only had like 60 to do.
Yeah, it was a lot, and I hated it. And you had to do it every week, right? Because you
Right.
had to stay on top from a compliance standpoint, and I hated it. But again, every time I would start feeling that way, I would tell myself, "You get to do this, right? You
Right.
wanted, at that time, as the director of football operations at Syracuse, that was my dream job, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I get to do this because this is part of my dream job. Hey, not everything you're going to do is going to be something you love doing, but you get to
Mm-hmm.
do it. You don't have to do it. You get to do it. And having that enthusiasm and kind of programming your mind that way not only gives you more peace of mind and more mental stability in a crazy world, which is athletics, but it makes everybody around you better too.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, enthusiasm is one of the most infectious things you can ever
Yeah.
have, right? And that enthusiasm becomes infected. Your team becomes infected with that
Right.
enthusiasm, and the players you're working with, the coaches you're working with, again, your direct reports, they're all
Yeah.
going to feel that, and again, you're going to reprogram other people as well, with that kind of get to versus have to mentality.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
cool. I like that get to. Because I think sometimes, again, people forget like our job in sports is pretty cool and pretty unique. And like you said, your buddies were wishing they were doing what you were doing. And putting that into perspective, like, yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. It's not a lot of great money, but we still get to witness some pretty cool things, work with some pretty great people and student athletes at the top of their game. That puts it in the perspective like, I get to do this. I get to be around these people and work with these people at the top of their craft. Like that's
Well,
incredible.
100%. I mean, I'm sure you guys hear it all the time, and some of the things you're doing, right, is,
Yeah.
man, it's so hard to find jobs in this industry, right? Why do you
Yes.
think that is?
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
there's a million people who want to be doing what you all are doing, what we're all doing, right?
Right.
So again, I
Mm-hmm.
think once you kind of have that perspective, and again, you kind of piggyback it with that get to versus have to attitude, again, it's infectious, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely noticeable by people around you. I mean, I've gotten jobs based on the fact that people know that that's my kind of view of the world, if you
Right.
Right.
will.
Right.
Is again, not everything. Don't get me wrong. I hated certain things that I had to do, but again, I got to do it. It wasn't that I
Yeah.
had to do it; it's I got to do it.
And that positive attitude, that's who people want to hire. They
Yeah.
don't want to
Hmm.
hire somebody who's negative and complains about certain things they don't want to do and hasn't some sort of entitlement, like you said. Like people look at that as employers. You want people that have that great attitude and the positive that's going to influence the rest of their department and the culture of what they're looking for. So all of those things are going to help you. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, especially if you're young, right? If it
mm-hmm.
say it's your
Yeah.
first job. You know, my first job, I was making $16,000, no benefits at Rutgers University, and very much a gopher. Very much had to
Yeah.
do everything everybody else didn't want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I was promoted within a year because, again, I used that get to versus have to mentality of,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, do I want to be picking up trash on campus before a recruiting visit? No, but I get to. I have this opportunity, make the best of it, and good things are going to happen. And like I said earlier, when you have an attitude like that and you're forward thinking and kind of have that mentality of being the best at where you're at right this second, and living that get to versus have to mentality, it all works out. And like I said, I've been lucky that people have come to me because they know that that's kind of my makeup and my
Yeah.
mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
All right,
The big
there's
last one.
Here's the big one. Okay, so Drew, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So, what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew when you first started?
Yeah, this was the one that I kind of spent the most time on kind of prepping, to be honest with you. But really, I hate to be the guy who's using all these acronyms and using all these catchphrases like Swiss Army knife, be where your butt is, hate you
No,
versus
that's
have to.
good.
But I've got one more for the
Yes.
podcast. And
Yes.
that last one is, I wish when I started working in athletics, I wish I lived by win. And what win was what's important now.
Yeah.
Right. And again, you can kind of see I have a common theme here of
Right.
kind of living in the moment more
Be
than
present.
anything else.
Yeah.
Yep. But win was something I picked up maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I heard a coworker mention that to me, and it was one of those things. It really resonated with me because, again, going back to what I said earlier, how I always wanted to be a sponge or a Swiss Army knife and learn as much as I could. Sometimes, especially younger or early in my career, my priorities were all out of whack, right? Like I'd be trying or I'd be learning something new that I thought was going to help me or my team, and I would lose focus of something that I needed to be prioritized, something that was more important for that moment. So that what's important now, and again, it's easy to remember, WIN, win, is something that is I use that every day. My current company, for example, we've created what we call a win list, and every day I look at that win list, and every day I challenge people in our company to update that win list and analyze that win list. And as all the noise is going on around us, just go back to that win list, because we spend time creating that, whether that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, what have you. It's something we can always go back to and say, what's important now? And again, that's something, that I feel strongly. I do that in my personal life, right? I have a notes app on my phone where I'm always kind of writing down things that what's important to me now, and kind of, what do I need to do for that right now, while still learning other things. What is important right now? And I think, again, especially for young people who either want to get into athletics or are, early on in their careers, the sooner you can learn that, the better you're going to feel about yourself, number one, because you're not going to stretch yourself too thin, but also you're going to really focus yourself on, again, being where your butt is, and really being ready and perfecting or getting really, really good at what you're doing currently. And again, I think it's one of those things where that is something that I learned, again, like I said, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago now, that I literally live every day of my life, which, again, I hope somebody will hear that and maybe start kind of prioritizing things like that a little bit better too.
It's awesome. What a great tip. And
that's great. That's really good.
So important to be present in what you're doing, and sometimes not an easy thing to learn. So
yeah, and if you learn it early enough in your career, that's going to help you with everything, whether, like you said, it's professional or personal. You're able to focus on the present, and so hopefully somebody listening can have that impact like it had on you. And
I think there are parallels though, right? Because I think you can prioritize things, what's important now, but you can still be learning other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, really focusing in, once you kind of start learning different things, or once you start kind of filling your toolbox, if you will, like honing in on what your priorities are for your current position, your current role, your boss, whoever, again, that's just going to help you really, kind of get through the clutter, if you will, and focus on being great, and to your point, being present.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Drew,
love that.
This was awesome. We're so glad that you got to join us, and I'm glad I got to see you personally. So, thank you for your time. And
yes, this was awesome. You crushed it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. It's great catching up with you guys. Love what you're doing, like I said, and if I could ever help moving forward, don't hesitate to give me a ring.
Thank you so much, everyone who joined the podcast and listening from week to week. Jen, give all our info for all those guests out there.
Yep. So you can follow us on all our social channels at AthCareerPod on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. Get all of our info and up to date on everything that we have going on, upcoming guests and whatnot. But thanks for everybody for listening. And Drew, this was great. It was good to see you.
Thanks,
bye, everyone.
Guys. You too.
Thanks.
Yep, bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platform.